be contacted. My email address, I'm also putting in the chat box should you need to contact me. So that's my email address. Just a note that the rules of this program are that you have 6 modules, and then afterwards you will be doing a research assignment. That research assignment, as far as I know, and Dr. Nagel can confirm this, can only be done or started when all those 6 modules have been completed. So your research assignment will be done in one of your of the disciplines in theology. That'll be either practical theology, missiology, ecclesiology, systematic theology, Old Testament or New Testament. Just note that if you do decide to register for, let's say, for example, for practical theology, first off, you will be able to still change it to a different discipline. So it's not that if you register your research assignment in practical theology now, that is cast in stone. So that could be changed as we go along. In terms of the fees, there are currently negotiations on the go. However, it has not been finalized yet. But for now, you guys will be paying the full amount in year 1 of this program. And then for every year that you continue, there's a small continuation fee that needs to be paid. For information on the student fees, you can contact Mr. Sean Davidson. I'm also putting his details in the chat box. And you can contact him should you require any information on fees. Please note that this is only for South African students. If you're an international student, you need to contact our international office first. That is also the case before you need to register. So all international students will need to contact our international office beforehand, as there are certain documentation and fees that needs to be paid and submitted before they can lift the block for the registration. And once you've done that and the blocks have been lifted, you can then contact Mrs. Reiters or then for me, and we can then finalize your registration for the year. That is, yeah, the other important thing is, if you do register in January or now, please remember that if you should be continuing this program next year, you would need to re-register every year as long as you are doing this program. We found in the past that students think that once they've registered, they registered and they don't need to register again. You will need to register every year for this program as long as you continue with it. That is very important. So if you register for this year and you register modules A, B, C, and D, and you only complete A, B, and C, and next year you would then register only for the modules you are still owing to do. You don't re-register the full program again. Other than that, I think that's fairly straightforward. I don't know whether there's any questions, Dr. Nagel or some of you guys as students, if there's any questions that you'd like to raise.
Yes, there's a hand, Walter. So I'm going to allow 3 minutes or so for questions pertaining to registration, etc. If that's okay, sure. Walter, go ahead, please.
You are muted, Walter.
Okay, sorry, I was talking to myself. If you could just repeat what you've just covered around, if you have registered for 5 courses last year, maybe you did not write. What is the situation? I've missed the last part. Sorry.
Okay, so if you register for modules A, B, C, D, and E, for example, for this year, and you only complete, let's say, 3 of those modules, then the following year, you only register for the modules that you have not completed yet. You do not need to register for the full program again. So the modules you have completed remains in the academic year of 2021, and you then have to re-register for the other modules that you have not completed yet. Does that answer your question, Walter?
Yeah, no, it does. So what if you did not write? I mean, let's say anything, you wanted to restart in 2021. Does it mean I need to register or? Or how does it work?
Just come again with a question, sir. Sorry.
If you registered last year, but for some reason you could not write any of those modules, you registered for 3, but you couldn't write. What happens this year? Do I have to re-register, or it's just a continuation?
You would have to re-register for all 3 of them again, yeah. If a module has not been completed for whatever reason, whether you failed it or whether you have not written it, you would have to re-register that module for 2021, or then for that matter, if you're starting in 21, for 2022 again. Does that answer the question, Walter?
Yes, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right.
Mrs. Pillay, the floor is yours, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to know what constitutes a year. If, for example, you like 6 modules to get through, so you finish them, because I see September is the last time we can write. So you finish those 6 by September, you get permission to do your thesis for this year still. When does that end? If you don't on into next year.
Okay, so a year would basically be from February. Let's take the 2021 academic year. So we will have 2 graduation ceremonies for the 2021 academic year. The first one is December, and then the second one would be March or April of 2022. In other words, the academic year would therefore then stretch from now up until almost January, February next year. So you will have time to complete whatever you need to complete by that time. Normally there's a date given for February, and that is when all the marks have to be loaded for the April graduations. So the April graduations is an extension of the previous academic year, if that makes sense. In other words, if you then register for the modules and you start your research assignment, for example, in September, like you said, and you have not completed it by November or December, you can then arrange with your supervisor or your study leader to submit it somewhere early in January, in order for it to still be marked, and the marks then to be loaded in February, so that you can then graduate in April. In that case, you will not need to re-register for 2022 again. Does that make sense? Perfect
sense. And then I just have another question. For how many years can you keep re-registering, or is there a cut-off period?
I think the normal years of study in this program would round about be 2 or 3 years. However, please note that also the department has the right, every year at the end of the year, the department has the right to decline further registration should there be no progress. In other words, a student registers and that's all he or she does for the year. There's no communication from the student. There's no assignments being handed in. He or she doesn't write any exams. The lecturers do not know what the situation is. The student just went AWOL, so to speak. In that case, the department has the right to decline further registration. But normally it would be about 2 to 3 years.
Thank you so much.
Bongani, would you like to raise your question? You're welcome to. Sure, I think Bongani has, but I think it has been addressed. But
I see. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
I think I've covered that, Bongani. Is that fine?
And sure, while we wait for Bongani, you also saw David's suggestion, then also Nadine's comments.
I just want to see where that is, talk.
Sure.
So that's exactly what I said, in terms of the 15 early in January, what Nadine said there. And then I think I also addressed David's question there in terms of the qualifications for a specific number of years. Is that fine, David?
Yes, Shell, you actually explained it quite nicely. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Vernie, go ahead with your question, please. And I see your hand, Nadine.
Good day, Mr. Cornelissen. I want to have more clarity on the continuation fee, because during the last block, that I write New Testament, then I decided not to write the two other modules. And if I register now, must I pay only the continuation fee or what?
Okay, Vernie, when did you register for the first time? Was it in July or was it in January last year?
I think it was in August.
So you were part of the second
year.
semester intake?
No, the first.
So that's why
I registered last January on the 29th of January last year.
Then if you register now, you'll be paying a continuation fee.
Okay.
What exactly that continuation fee or the amount exactly is, I'm not sure. That's why I put Mr. Sean Davids' details in the chat box so that you can just contact him to get the correct amount.
Yes, I got it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Nagel, you must just check the questions.
Yes, there's another. Nadine, if you're okay with that, we're going to cover assignments later. I saw a hand from Andre, but there was a hand. Andre, there was a hand just before yours. Let me just see if that's covered. Andre, go ahead with your question. So I'm going to.
Okay.
Andre, that would be the second last question, and then there's another question in the chat, and Bulelani. Okay. Andre and then Bulelani, and I'm going to stop with that with regards to questions to the registrar, if that's okay. Bulelani, you can go first. You made your comment first, followed by Andre. Please go ahead.
Can I ask? I see Bulelani's question here. I can answer that quickly. You can register up until the end of March. We actually suggest and recommend that we get these registrations over and done with as soon as possible. So if we could finish all the registrations by the end of February, that would be fantastic. But on the very latest, middle March to end of March, at the very, very latest. In terms of the registration fee, we were told that we can't say registration fee anymore. It's not a penny registration fee. It's the first installment on your year's fees. And that needs to be paid after you have registered. If you do not pay that amount, then you will not be able to eventually get a student card and access and all that type of things. So that needs to be paid as soon as possible. Exactly what the deadlines are, again, that would be Mr. Sean Davids' department.
Thank you. Andre, you can go ahead with your question. Bulelani, if you are happy with the response there, then Andre can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just clarity, Mr. Cornelissen. You mentioned that before the email is sent to you regarding registration fees, so that the block can be lifted from that portal, should it be done now, or a registration fee, should it be done now, or should it? How does it go about? How do we go about it?
Okay. Are you an international student, Andre?
No, I'm local. I'm a newbie. Newbie is a very fresh person to the program.
All you do is you just send that email to either me or Mrs. Shivan-Reiters. We will then finalize the registration for you. Okay. Then after the registration, you can then just make a payment on your registration fee. So there's not going to be any blocks on your account. It's only the international students that there are blocks on, and that the international office needs to have their stuff. They've got visas and permits and medical aids and all the other stuff that they need to submit before they can register. But for South African students and local students, there's no blocks on the system. They can register as long as they, like I said, as long as they pay their registration or the first installment as soon as possible directly after the registration has been done. Does that answer your
Duly
question,
noted.
Andre?
Duly noted,
Okay.
Mr. Cornelissen. Thank
All right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the interaction, Shirl. Thank you so much for the information, as usual, practical, relevant, and valuable. So thanks for that.
Dr. Nagel,
colleagues, I'm going to move over to our next section, and
sorry,
that's
Dr.
the
Nagel, can I
lecture.
say?
Yes, of course.
Can I just say one last thing before I go? And also, may I be excused from the meeting after this, if possible?
Of course, Shirl.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
Indeed.
So just one last thing. You received admission letters, many of you received admission letters where there has been requested that you need to submit your original degree certificates. Those degree certificates, obviously at the moment, Admin A is closed. So for now, I'm going to put the person's name again in the chat box. It's a Mr. Andre Nodia. And that degree certificates of yours can be either emailed to him in a PDF. It has to be certified, and it has to be a 2021 certification date on it. So if you're certified, make sure that the date on it on that document is 2021. If not, alternatively, you can then go directly to Admin A during the course of the year before the end of the first semester, and then submit your original document to him so that he can sign it in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a common thing every year. Students forget to do this. And when it comes to the end of the year and they need to graduate, you know, many of you guys will be sitting at home at that time when we start doing our audits, and then it's a struggle getting you guys and contacting you guys in order to get those degree certificates in. So if you have, if you are still to receive a degree certificate somewhere from an institution, please note it has to be submitted before the end of the first semester. If you're a Stellenbosch student, you do not need to submit a degree certificate because everything is on record. Okay.
Thank you so much, Shirl. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nagel, and thank you, students. We'll see each other soon, I hope.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shirl. Colleagues, we're going to move on to, I see there's two hands, but let's move on to the lecturer and discipline coordinator session. Remember, this is not a Q&A. It's merely introduction to the various disciplines, modules, and that will be followed by a further question and answer session. So let us start off with my colleague in the Department of Old and New Testament, Professor Julie Claessens. Julie, the floor is yours.
Hi, so welcome. Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you as the PGDip on behalf of the Old Testament specifically. Now, in the booklet, you have the 3 books that are assigned for the Old Testament part of this course. So there's a book by Conrad Schmidt on Pentateuch prophets, by Stuhlman and Kim, which reads the biblical prophets also through the lens of trauma hermeneutics. The idea that a lot of the Old Testament came out of the trauma of the exile, and how the community is trying to make meaning out of that. And then there's a book also in terms of the wisdom literature by David Bishansky, which again was a book, the wisdom literature in terms of the different voices, conflict title of the wisdom literature. So my 2 colleagues in Old Testament, Professor Juncker and Nsuzaki Suzula, we each take a book, we set a question, and we also grade, each of us grade one of these questions that are set on the book. In terms of, it's a 3-hour exam, so with writing it online, so we give you extra time. So I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 5 or 6 hours. So the idea is that you really write a substantial answer. We ask a question that sort of covers part of the book, but we really want to see you be able to show insight into the various arguments in the book, that you can show some of your critical engagement with the text, seeing parallels also between certain parts of the book, certain arguments, and then also to be able to think about the relevance for your context and why this is important for that. In the past, we've had really really a bad, terrible problem with plagiarism. I think some of my other colleagues will also be saying like that to you. We do catch you, and then you fail. And you have to redo it, or you can also have jeopardy of sort of being kicked out of the university. There's a process, and if you are a repeat offender, it's being taken in that regard. So really, it's very important that you do your own work. Also, when you do summaries of the books, being very careful that you not sort of use other people's works. Also, when you write on these texts, you use your own words. If you're using a quotation, it has to be in quotation marks. You have to use citations also whenever you're not using your own words. Testament books give some different approaches. Conrad Smith is more historical approach, while Stulman and Kim are focusing more on literary theological reading. Bishansky would also be sort of in the midst of those two approaches. So I think you will be getting a sense of the breadth of scholarship in terms of the biblical scholarship. So any questions? I'm happy to answer any of those questions. Peter, is that more or less what you wanted? I think on Sunday you also hear some of the colleagues speaking about the scope and more insight into the books. So you will hear also which is posted on Sunday.
Julie, thank you so much. That is perfect. So I'm not going to take questions right now, if that's okay. We're going to push that to a little bit later on. But Julie, thank you so much for introducing.
I'm staying around for that.
Perfect. And you focused on the bottom line, the three books that is key to the modules. Thanks. I'm going to continue by representing the New Testament. And as you can see there, the three books into the world of the New Testament. My colleague, Professor Marius Nel, is responsible for the content and the assessment of that particular question relating to this particular source. The Roman Empire and the New Testament, Professor Jeremy Pint is responsible for the assessment relating to the content of that book. And the last one, the Oxford Handbook of Jewish Daily Life in Roman Palestine, that's my responsibility. And that is a compilation of various essays, topics. You can see it there on the board. So it's the three colleagues, Professor Marius Nel, Professor Jeremy Pint, and myself, responsible for the assessment of the NT module based on these three resources. Okay, let's move on to systematic theology and ecclesiology. And Dr. Nadia Marais, the floor is yours.
Hi. Okay. Yeah, it's good to join all of you in this manner, and I will just shortly say something about systematic theology. So you will see in the booklet we have kept this the same over the last few years, but we basically have two major sources that are prescribed, and that sort of corresponds with how we understand systematic theology as comprising of dogmatics and ethics. So we have one major source for each of these two focuses in systematic theology, and you can see there the sources are available. There are a number of copies in the library. I know that, of course, now and for the foreseeable future, that's probably not the most feasible way to obtain them. But I can perhaps just say that I think it is really worth it to to buy your own copy of these books. Also, for those of you who are interested in specializing in systematic theology, not only for the B part of this program, but also with future studies in mind, MTH and PhD. So you can see the 2 books are prescribed there. For ethics, we require of you to read the whole book. It's not a very thick book, so you'll understand why I say that when you see the book. And from the dogmatics book, the Migliori book, we have a few sample chapters. So what we regard as key chapters from this book that you will be required to read. Both of these books are also available as Kindle versions and electronic books. So however you choose to read it, that's up to you, but that is our expectation. We don't expect of you to do book reviews, but we do expect of you to be very well prepared. I can perhaps just echo what Professor Claessens has said around plagiarism. We found that on the one hand, the sort of electronic exams have really improved access. And for a number of people, students and lecturers, there really are strengths to this manner of examining our subjects. But there are also a number of downfalls and dangers. And I also just want to add my voice to her caution that it isn't worth it to copy and paste or to use one another's even summaries for exams, or to stick too closely to the sources, as in typing over sources, or even giving direct translations from English to Afrikaans in your exam. So that is one caution I just want to also add my voice to at the beginning of the year, because we always have problems and it is so unnecessary. It's also really dangerous, because I don't think the consequences are worth it of being expelled from the university and from the sort of university study for 10 years if you are found guilty of plagiarism. So please, that's not worth it. It's easy enough to avoid. And I would also like to extend the invitation, if you at any point you are unsure as to how to proceed with your preparations for the exam. In systematic theology, we make available what we call a playpen link on the platform with which we work, SunLearn. And the intention is that at any point, whether it's an exam or an assignment, or even just summaries that you would like to test for the subject of systematic theology, you are welcome to test for, put it through the Turnitin link and see what the similarity scores would be should you submit that. So there are tools available, but you are of course welcome to contact me directly as well if at any point anything is unclear about this. So yeah, so then there is the exam as part of the A part, and I'm sure Peter will get to the B part. But I can perhaps just say in systematic theology that comprises of an oral exam on 6 books, as well as a research assignment of between 20 and 30 pages. But if you find that your interests lie in this subject, please do contact me and we can discuss that further. So, Peter, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like me to explain or point out at this point.
That's spot on. Thank you, Nadia. It's perfect.
Cool.
Appreciate it. Let's move over to your colleague, Professor Henry Mbaya. Henry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, welcome to Ecclesiology. Ecclesiology, which also is understood as church history. We have 2 standard books prescribed, and you have to choose one other, but the prescribed books are Gonzalez, The Story of Christianity, Volume 1, The Early Church to the Dawn of the Reformation. And the other one is The Story of Christianity, Volume 2, The Reformation to the Present Day. Now, the subject content really is about understanding Christianity the movement in Christianity, how Christianity has been a movement, and trying to understand it not only as a movement, but also in terms of the events that have formed part of that movement. And so the aim for these two important books is for you to understand how Christianity started and it developed, has been developing over the years until today, and especially trying to understand the movements and personalities behind those movements. So it's very important that you'd have to come to grips with those movements and important figures who have been responsible for those movements. And so the two books are very important. And so as I said, that those two books are prescribed, but then you also have to choose one amongst other books. Can you just go down? Can you just scroll down, Peter? Yeah, thank you so much. So you'd have to choose one of the books, either De Gruchy or Oden or Ethic or Hith. And so you have two prescribed and a choice of one. So that's very important. And in terms of exams, you'll be required to do some reviews of the books, to do a book review of these books. And of course, as my colleagues have said, I'm not going to overemphasize the issue of plagiarism, which we take it very, very seriously. So it's important that in the exam, you'd have to demonstrate that you have grasped the issues and you are able to explain them in detail, but also to reflect and be able to apply some of the critical insights on the church as a movement today. That is very, very important. Which, of course, the issue of plagiarism is important, because once it has been dictated that you have plagiarized, then there'll be problems in terms of university regulation. So I don't have to emphasize that, because colleagues are saying that, and I think it's important that you take note of that. But also, let me say further that, as my previous colleague has said, that if you have got any questions regarding the module, then you are more than welcome to write to me and ask about whatever you wish to understand, or perhaps it's not clear enough regarding the module. But we'll be very, very happy to have you in ecclesiology, which is church history, a very important subject. Thank you so much. Is there anything else, Peter, that perhaps you wish me to elaborate on?
Henry, that is perfect. Thank you so much. If there's anything, we can cover that in the Q&A session. Thank you so much. Before we move over to practical theology and missiology, maybe Dion, if you would like to say a word or two, you're more than welcome.
Peter, thanks very much, and good afternoon, colleagues. Perhaps the only thing that I would add is that within systematic theology, we also have a sub-discipline of ethics, Christian ethics. And, in that particular field, we often look at the ethical implications and consequences of the doctrinal beliefs that we have. So, for example, if we believe God created creation to be good, then ethically, how should we live to honor God's good creation? Or if we believe that humanity is created in the image of God, how should we structure our societies politically and economically and socially so that we achieve God's will for creation? So that's Christian ethics. And I'm responsible for Christian ethics. And then in ecclesiology, we also have a sub-discipline, and that sub-discipline is church law. And very sadly, our colleague, Professor Mary Ann Plaatjes van Huffel, who was teaching that, passed away last year. But between myself and Dr. Sipho Maokoto and Dr. Robert Vosloo, we are handling the church law modules. And basically that's, every church must have some structure. What do we do if our members don't uphold our values or have a theological disagreement with us? How do we structure our churches? For example, who may be ordained, who may preside over the sacraments? How do we own land? How do we relate to the state? So these are all legal issues that come out of our beliefs and the structuring of our church communities. They're issues that relate to the church and ecclesiology. So that's church law. And if anyone is interested in working in church law, then by all means, again, contact me and we'll make sure that you're put in contact with the correct person. Thanks, Peter.
Dion, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now let's move on to practical theology and missiology, and there our colleagues, the Reverend David Mouton, Dr. Peter White, and Professor Nadine Bowers de Tooy will give us more information. Let's start with practical theology. David, the floor is yours. David, you are muted. Just unmute yourself, please.
I like my looks more than I like my voice, it seems. Hi, Peter. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm responsible for the practical theology part of the postgraduate diploma. And in case you're wondering whether, it's really true that all 4 sub-disciplines falls under this module, yes, it is true. So this module covers introductory and foundational material for homiletics, which has to do with sermons and services and liturgy. If I can just, very broadly try to explain. The second sub-discipline that's covered by this module is that of youth work. And again, it's foundational concepts, a bit of historical background to youth ministry. The third component is that of pastoral care and counseling. And the fourth one, church ministry, and that has to do with understanding the church as belonging to Christ, as the people of Christ. So for each of these 4 sub-disciplines, there are specific prescribed materials. And I'll just go through the list very briefly. If we start with pastoral care and counseling, we have 4 chapters from the book Cura Vitae from Professor Daniel Lowe. That will be made available to you via SunLearn. Then for youth work, we have prescribed material from the book Starting Right, Thinking Theological about Youth Ministry. Again, we will make that material available via SunLearn. And then for homiletics, the book by Long, The Witness of Preaching, also that will be made available to you via SunLearn. Just back to church ministry, the prescribed book from Professor Nell, Together in God's Theatre. That's a change to the reading list from previous years. The book is just fresh from the printers, and it is available. Unfortunately, you will have to buy the book because the entire book is prescribed. We have arranged, or I spoke to Protea bookshop here in Stellenbosch. They keep stock of the book. And they confirmed with me that should you want to order the book, they can arrange for it to be couriered. The book is 220 Rand per book, and courier cost is up to 100 Rand, unfortunately. So if you are here in Stellenbosch, then you can buy the book from directly from Protea. And I'll just afterwards, Peter, I'll just in the chat function, I'll just put the contact telephone number for Protea Books. For the students. And then the last 3 reading material or references put in the reading list is for pastoral care and counseling, Magesi, History and Development of Pastoral Care, then just the article by McClure, which gives a historical background on the development of pastoral care and counseling, and then the last article about the needs to shift from individual to community paradigms in pastoral care. And these last three pieces of reading was also added this year, and the intention particularly is that I found that the reading list wasn't sensitizing students enough to the community aspects of practical theology, and in particular pastoral care and counseling. So I will be focusing a little bit on that we need to move towards an understanding of practical theology, pastoral care as community engagement, community empowerment, but also community driven in the end. So that's with regards to the prescribed material. All of the prescribed material will be available via Sunland, except for the book By Now, which you will have to buy from Protea Books. Just a few things in terms of the assessments. We will not have book reviews or reviews from the prescribed material. You will be examined as per the information in the booklet. What I do, however, intend to do, and what I expect from you to do, is that I will schedule a number of engagement sessions. I know that the book indicated 4 hours. It will probably be a bit more, but I'll schedule that in advance. And during each of the engagement sessions, we will discuss key concepts from particular material so that we can have some form of discussion and understanding on each of the sub-disciplines. And I found that particularly lacking last year, especially since some of the students come from a non-theological background and really need to understand the undergirding principles and theories that we apply within theology and practical theology in specific. Let me just see, I wanted to say something else. Oh, yes. Just remember when, and Dr. Nagel will speak about research and the research project. When you choose your research project, you choose practical theology, but then you need to select one of the 4 sub-disciplines. Now, assisting with the research component there is also, some of the colleagues in our department, Professor Nell for church ministry, myself and Reverend Nobuntu, for pastoral care, for youth work, Dr. Chantel Weber, and for homiletics, Professor Cas Webner will assist with the research there. Yeah, Peter, let me just make sure that I have covered everything. Yes, I think so. Good. Thanks very much. Yeah, if there's any question, then you can, of course, as the colleague said previously, you can contact me. And then also I want to stress what they have stressed as well. Plagiarism, do your own work, please. It ends up at my desk, unfortunately, and I have to, spend a lot of time investigating stuff when students don't do their own thing. So save me that effort and save yourself the damage that can emanate from not doing your own work. Thanks very much, Peter. Students.
David, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Dr. Peter White, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Peter, and welcome all of you to Theology. Before I move to issues concerning theology, I want to make it clear that when it comes to PGDip, theology is usually placed between the program is usually split between theology and community development. So I will be taking the theology aspect, and Nadine will be taking the community development aspect of what we do. So in theology, when it comes to the issue of the materials that you're supposed to read or the required materials for the program, we have 4 books listed on for the program, and 2 of them are purposely for theology. One has to do with interfaith leadership, and the other one has to do with religious studies. Because we believe that as people who are practicing mission, we should also understand the fact that we are dealing with other religions and cultures. So it's very important that we introduce our students to issues of religion and issues concerning interfaith leadership. So you see that the 4 books that we have designated for this program covers that area. And I want to also let them know that when you look at the books that we have, the first one, Pastel, the year of publication is 2016, not 206. So please, we will correct that one, and we will let you know. So the year of publication is 2016. So please take note of that. And we'll be focusing on chapters 2, 3, and 4. Chapters 2, 3, and 4. The book is available in the library. And if you can visit the library, you can just get in touch with the librarian. They will make available the e-copies to you, which you can download. Then we also have Bivans. We'll be focusing on chapters 9, 10, and 11, which we want students to also take note of. It's also available in the library. Then we come to issues concerning religious studies. And this aspect, we'll be focusing on chapter 1 and 2 of Indisi. Chapters 1 and 2 of Indisi. It's also available in the library. However, we will upload them on Sunland once we finish the setup for PGDip. With the materials available, we upload them on Sunland. So I want us to take note of that. For now, I'm the one coordinating the missiology program, and in the second semester, so Olile will be joining us. So it's possible that some of the students may also decide to work with me. So I'd like you to also take note of that. So that is what we have for missiology, and I'll leave the rest for Nadine to continue. Thank you very much.
Peter, thank you so much. Appreciate it. If not, Nadine Bouwer-Setoe, the floor is yours. Please.
Hi, colleagues. Hi, everybody. Lovely to be with all of you. I would just like you to have a look at the meeting chat. So in light of the fact that students indicated that they couldn't get hold of Samuel and Sugden, was difficult to order. I think the book may be out of print. What I've decided is rather, in the time of COVID anyway, for this year, to opt for August's curriculum for community development because it's easily accessible online. There is also the book Equipping the Saints, which is also by August and not Michael Christensen as indicated. So the book will be, Dr. Nagel has assured me the book will be updated. And what you'll do is look at August as a key text, and then there are 3 chapters that you will see are assigned, one by Ajulu, which will be scanned in, and all of these will be scanned in and loaded as PDFs on the Sunland site. Then one by myself, Action or Apathy, Theological Perspectives and the Influence on the Church's Engagement. And then one from the original Samuel and Sugden book, which is a kind of a seminal text from a Bragg. So thanks Peter for saying your update. That's fantastic, and apologies everybody, but I've noted that there are issues getting hold of some of these texts, so I decided to change that. In terms of the topics that are covered, we're looking at things like basic community development principles. What is community development? And then theological perspectives on the church's engagement with issues of poverty and inequality. Why theology and development? What is the biblical theological basis? And then also critical perspectives. Why is the church, for example, not engaging as it should be? What is the motivation for the church's engagement in terms of issues of poverty and inequality, and trying to get you to think critically about how, for example, in your own local environment, community, or congregational context, you could encourage your church to engage. So the key criteria, of course, are things such as knowledge. So when we have our questions within our exam, my questions usually take the form of a case study analysis. And as Dr. Peter White has already said, you will see that community development falls under the banner of missiology. So don't be confused. In the past, there was a separate community development sort of exam, but the community development and missiology will be examined as one exam. So please don't forget to study both those when you study for missiology. So what I'm looking for is for you to understand the various issues, the content, the perspectives, the debates within the articles or chapters or mini thesis that I've prescribed. And then secondly, another criteria is that of integration. How can you integrate the various perspectives? Can you make connections between them? Being able to critically evaluate the material and articulate your own point of view, and then also application, being able to make links between theory and praxis in your own particular context. So I'm not wanting, when we have a case study, I'm not merely wanting you to regurgitate what you've read, but I'm wanting you to integrate, evaluate, and display that knowledge, but within context. Thanks, everybody. I have many students over the years from the PGDip program specializing with me, and I encourage you to engage if this is a subject field that interests you. One of the things I need to say, because it's quite popular, it means that sometimes I have an overload of students, and sadly towards the end of last year when students started contacting me, I had to say I'm sorry, but I'm full up. So yes, but very passionate about my subject and look forward to engaging with all of you in future. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Peter.
Nadine, thank you so much. Peter, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to add something briefly to what Nadine said. What we discovered last year was that sometimes students will just answer missiology questions, leaving that of community development. So we just want to make it clear to students that you are answering questions from both community development and missiology. You can't just pick missiology and leave community development. So you are required to answer those questions, both from missiology and community development. Thank you.
Peter, thank you so much. Colleagues, thank you for keeping to the time, and introducing the gist of the program, at least in your environment. So thank you for that. Allow me to introduce the Q&A section by just briefly referring to the the 2021 booklet. Now remember, we will update it after this session, so information might change what's on the screen now. So please just take note of that. I'm just going to run through the contact details, and notably the administrative officers of each environment or department. Just take note of it. These are the discipline coordinators, and Nadine, I think even though the community development is a subsection of missiology, I think it would be helpful if we can include you in here. So after that, if you can just send me a photo, and I will update it here as well. So please just take note of the contact details, and importantly, the supporting platforms. Now, these platforms do not by any way or form, replace the normal channels of the university in terms of communication. However, these are supporting platforms to engage us whatever matters relating to the PGDip. So just take note of that. I'm not going to say anything on the registration. I think that is covered. What I would like to do is just briefly summarize or refer to what this PG program is all about. Well, simply put, it's a program that allows you to enter into theological postgraduate studies. Whether you have started studying theology, or whether you've started any other degree or program, this allows you entry into theological studies on a postgraduate level. And it consists of two parts. The one part is purely examination of the 6 modules: ecclesiology, missiology, New Testament, Old Testament, practical theology, systematic theology. You can see it there. It's 60 credits, 10 credits per module, and that is done by way of a virtual exam. It was, in the past, it was a physical exam, on-site exam, if you will, assessment. But as things are now, this will be another virtual examination or assessment on the 6 modules. The second part of the program is the research assignment. So some of them that's a specialization in one of these modules or disciplines, and the sub-disciplines, as Professor Dion Foster mentioned, and of course Reverend David Mouton in practical theology and missiology. With regards to New Testament and Old Testament, of course, there's various aspects in the Old Testament, type of literature, approaches, hermeneutical and otherwise, in which you can specialize. So, but these are the main 6 disciplines or modules that you can specialize in. Some of the modules, depending on the supervisor, will require a oral examination or book review as part of your assessment for the second part. Important, you cannot continue with the second part if you have not completed the 6 modules. And with completion is meant that you've passed and you've received an admission letter, if you will, from Ms. Estelle Miller. Let me just go back, and I think this is, I'm going to stop with that. I would think a valuable addition to the program this year is the student engagement sessions. We plan 6 student engagement, that is 3 per semester, so that is a session per environment or department. It could be more hours, but we've set aside these as a guideline. And that will be a virtual online engagement session to introduce the subject matter, terminology, plagiarism, anything and everything that relates to that particular module or field of study. So I think this is a valuable. More information will follow, the links to these virtual sessions, dates, times, etc. But I think this is a valuable addition to the program this year. I think I'm going to stop there and let's move over to the question and answer session. And Haila, I see your comment there. If there's any question to Haila as well during the Q&A, she's available. She's our librarian representing them all there. So by way of let's just structure the Q&A as follows. I'm going to take 3 questions. We'll deal with the 3 questions and then we'll take another round, 3 questions, etc. So let's start with the first 3 questions. If you would like to raise your hand, any question, it might relate to registration, admission, subject matter, to any of my colleagues, to the booklet, any question you might have, please. The floor is open, it's yours. I see a hand from Mrs. Pillay. No other hand at the moment. I see a hand, yes, from Joanne Jones. Your hand is noted. I just want to see if there's a third. Mrs. Pillay, the floor is yours, followed by Joanne Jones. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll make up for the lack of one hand. I have 2 questions. The first is related to exams. So I see that we have exams scheduled April, June, August, and September. Do I get to set my own exam when I choose to write? So for example, if I choose to do NT in April and I choose to do OT in June, can I do that? That's my question for the exams. And then the next question is specifically for systematic theology. When Dr. Nadia Maria was speaking, she said there's an oral exam on 6 books. So what I would like to know is, do we first do a written exam on the 2 prescribed books? And then once that is done and you move on to the second stage, does that include the oral exam? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Nadia, before you respond, I'm just going to take another 2 questions, so just make a note of the question. Joanne Jones, you up next, and Geertse, please go ahead, Joanne. Joanne, can you hear me? You can go ahead. Are you unmuted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm not good with technology, and I've just had the same stuff on the screen all the time, so I've been trying to follow and make notes. But how do I get access to the chat box and the Sunlearn? Would somebody send me an email or something?
Okay, Johann, just to respond to the chat box, are you referring to the chat box here now?
Yes, yes.
Well, if you look at the top of your screen, there's an icon with, it looks like 2 people next to it, a little bubble, a chat. You click on that one, the middle one next to the hand, to the left of the hand.
Okay.
Top of your screen, there's a few icons.
You see, I'm on my iPhone, so I think that's throwing everything out because I have sound on my computer.
Okay, Johanna, we'll sort that out separately. With regards to your second question, we'll answer that shortly. The next person that raised their hand, please put your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is about exams. So I see we have 4 opportunities to write. Does that mean that if you wrote the first opportunity and you, for instance, failed that opportunity, are you able to write as many times until you pass? Or if you fail, then it means that you have to do it over the next year? Thank you.
Okay, let's deal with Nadia. So before I give you an opportunity, I'm just going to quickly answer those administrative questions. So let me start with the last one. You've got 4 opportunities to register or to write an exam. Bearing in mind that you have any one of those dates are options. But remember, and that relates to your question, the last question, if you fail, if you register or plan to write the final block and you fail, there's no additional opportunity. But if you write the 3rd block or the 2nd block, there is an opportunity to rewrite. So if, and I talk under correction, if Estelle is still in the room, she can correct me, but of the 4 options in terms of blocks, if you've chosen one and you failed, you have another option to write. Estelle, are you coming in? Can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes, now you are perfectly correct. If they write the 1st, 2nd or 3rd options, they will have a second opportunity for a re-exam, but they must keep in mind that if they write a re-exam, it will be to a maximum of 50%, which they will receive. The 4th option, that will be a final one, and there's not a re-exam after that. If they maybe have failed both options, or they decide I'm rather going to carry over my model to the next year, they start from scratch. And yeah.
Estelle, thank you so much for that clarification. I hope it answers both questions regarding the examination. Are you both happy?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Nadia, then the floor is yours to answer the systematic theology specific question.
Yes, thank you. I think a very important question. So I just to explain it, so the program is divided in two parts, the A part and the B part. For the A part of this program, you complete 6 exams. And the exam I was talking about, which requires reading 2 books, the Migliore and the Loven book for dogmatics and ethics respectively, that is one of the 6 exams that's part of the A part. So it's 10 credits. Each of these exams is 60 credits in full for the A part. But then each student will have the choice of where they would like to specialize. So in a certain sense, in the A part, you can see what interests you, what you would be, what you would like to invest more of your time and energy in. And then we move to the B part, where you contact the respective lecturers for only in one subject you specialize for the B part. And the B part is also 60 credits, if I'm not mistaken. In systematic theology, how we do the B part. So what this requires is for you to complete the whole of the A part. So not one outstanding exam must be left over. So all 6 of the exams must be completed before you can go over to the B part of the program. But if you choose to specialize in systematic theology, we split that into 2 parts within only the B part. The first part is an oral exam on 6 books. And normally we design the B part to for the oral exam and the research assignment to sort of speak to one another. So typically I would ask you, what are your interests? Are there specific doctrines or ethical questions or debates or matters that you would like to work on yourself? And then we would compile a reading list to begin with. You do an oral exam on that reading list of 6 books, and then you move on to writing the research assignment. As part of the sources list for the research assignment, the idea is that the 6 sources that you were already examined on get you started on writing the research assignment. So you have to use more sources, but it's just a way to really get into it, check in with your lecturer that how you've read it and understood it, that's more or less the direction you should be thinking and working. And then follows the research assignment of 20 to 30 pages. So together, these 2 components will be the final mark for the B part if you specialize in systematic theology. And again, I think that's 60 credits in total. So, but what that does require, and I believe that is the case for all subjects in which you would specialize for the B part, is that the A part must be completely finished. So there can be no loose strands or exams hanging for the A part. If you finished all 6 of those exams, you have marks for all 6 of those exams, you've passed all 6 of those subjects, only then are you allowed to proceed to the B part of the program. I hope that answers your question, but you're welcome to tell me if it doesn't.
Nadia, thank you so much. Extremely important clarification between the A part and the B part. So thank you for that. That is helpful. I'm going to open up. So Jonathan and Walter, I see your questions. I'm just going to open the floor for another 2 or 3 questions. So please raise your hand. This is the time to do so. The colleagues are in the room, they're available, they're willing to engage you and to answer any questions you might have. That is, of course, related to theology. Sorry, it's my son screaming in the background, the usual noises of the Nagel household. Yes, please, I see your hand. I see your hand. So let us I'm just going to wait. I've got 2 hands raised. If there's no third, Mr. Seister, please go ahead, followed by, I'm not sure if it is Mr. or Mrs. Madoda. So please go ahead. The floor is yours. Just make sure you unmute it. Philip, I see your hand as well. Nadine, I see your hand as well.
My name is Madoda Mfene.
Madoda, welcome. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Peter, mine has to do with the exams, the virtual exams. On 2 exams, technical challenges where I could not get onto the exam paper. And then the time, I'm not sure. I would say it could be better if there could be because I was struggling to get to the exam paper, and then you then came and helped me. And then remember, by that time, the people were already on the exams. So I'm not sure of the turnaround time when you do the virtual exams, which can be assured to us as students. Because I was writing, I had a technical challenge, I did not access the exam paper, and the exams was continuing until maybe after an hour and almost an hour, or I can't remember, but I was panicking because I couldn't access the exam paper. I remember asking if is it possible that you can email it to me so that I can start with the exam, and then I go back and log in. I just want to check the turnaround time during the exam to deal with technical issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Valuable and important questions during these virtual times. Your question is noted. We will respond. Philip, the floor is yours, and then followed by Nadine.
Thank you. I also posted my question, but I wondered if you can share a bit more about how this virtual exam will look like. Will I be given a question and then I have 4 hours until I upload a document, or is there a platform where I must write online? Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Your question is noted. We will answer that. Nadine, please go ahead.
Thanks, Peter. So just to follow on from Nadia, you'll see that David Butone said that exactly as she's explained it, it's also in the other specializations. But one point that I wanted to make was that if you want to complete in a year, I think somebody asked that question, that means that you have to have completed your 6 exams, your first 6 exams, or your A part by June, July. If you want to graduate by December, because usually the PGDip assignment is due late October. And so between July and late October, you need to do your 6-book oral, and you need to have done your mini assignment. What I have found, for example, is students that try to finish. So that also means that in part, with your part B, if you want to graduate, where Cheryl had previously mentioned, by April of the following year, that means that you should be finished, as has already been said, by September, and that gives you from September to mid-January to complete that B part. The problem that comes in is that most of us lecturers go on our leave from the middle of December, and that could also be even a little bit early December, often right up until your hand-in date. So you actually need to be finished sometimes by the 15th of December or before then, before your supervisor goes on leave, and then you have that month to edit or do whatever until hand-in. So please note that, because sometimes that really becomes a problem when students come on you 2 weeks before you know, the university closes, or we go on leave and say, oh, well, now I want to do my PGDip assignment and hand in January because I've still got a month left or a month and a half left. And most of us will then say, well, sorry, we're unable to do that because we really want to provide quality supervision to you. So yeah, just a point on that one, Peter, in terms of the B part. So everything Nadia said is 100%, but just to add on that perspective. Thanks.
Nadine, thank you so much. Obviously relevant and very important. I think it's a valuable contribution. Thank you so much. So may I respond to the 2 questions? So firstly, of course, we are well aware of the technological challenges. it might be ESCOM load shedding, it might be access to data, it might be a bad connection, whatever the case may be. And of course, we allow enough time for you to access the online platform, get your exam paper, write it, and of course, uploading it. In general, I think the time for an exam is 6 hours, but in the past, we've allowed for 7 hours, even more, depending on the situation. So I don't want to say there's 7 or 8 or 9 hours, you know, it's ad infinitum. All I'm saying is that the scheduled hours is 6, but given the circumstances, there might be a situation, we assess the situation, we assess the circumstances, and we allow more time for that. Philip, to just get to your question, what will happen is all the exams will be virtual, and with that, you log on to Sunlearn, you go through a process of confirming integrity, rules and regulations of the university with regards to the exams, followed by accessing the exam paper, and then you write your paper. You can do it offline in inverted commas, and once you're done, you upload it again to Sunlearn through a Turnitin plugin. So let me just confirm, it's a matter of logging in, going through a short process of accepting the rules and regulations, integrity, honesty, etc. You get access to your paper, and then you go offline, you answer the questions, and once you're done, you upload your answer sheet to Sunlearn. I hope that covers that. Let me quickly, before I take another round, Walter and Jonathan. So Jonathan, I think your question has been answered. Just give me indication if it's not with regards to the 2 years. Would I need to complete assignments, write exams? The short and the long is you have 2 years, and you can structure the 2 years as you want. You know, you can do all your modules in terms of examination in the 1 year. You can do some of them the first year, some of them the second year, in combination with your Part B, the research assignment, book reviews, oral. Then with regards to Walter, you're seeing the most books are not fully prescribed. Do we have prescribed chapter sections somewhere we can refer to? Yes, I assume that the prescribed material, if it's not books in its entirety, could be available on Sunlearn, uploaded there. If not, then it means going to the library and making a copy of the set chapters or sections. But as I sit here now, and my colleagues can correct me, most of the material is available online. But colleagues, please come in and correct me where I'm wrong. So let us take another round of questions. I'm just looking through the list. There's nobody raising a hand. Please, if there's anything, this is the time. Ask your questions. Get your clarifications that you so desperately need. Engage me and my colleagues. Yes, I've got 2 hands. Dion and Pierre. Let's just see if there's a third hand. Not from any one of you two, because that would be a miracle, but a third person wanting to ask a question. Let's just see. Okay, then let's leave it at that. Dion, the floor is yours, followed by Pierre.
Thank you, Doctor. My intention is to do a master's degree after the postgraduate diploma. So my question is, how does the master's degree start? Is it a specific month in the year? So if you wanted to start in 2022, does that mean that I should try and finish my PGDip by the end of December, or is it fairly flexible in terms of when you can start the master's degree?
Thanks, Pierre. Your question is noted. I will we will answer that. Dion? Sorry, that was Dion. Pierre, sorry.
Hi, that's fine. Thank you for taking the question. I just want to find out if can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure of the others, but I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, perfect. I just want to find out, is maybe jumping the gun a little bit, but I want to also have an intention to do a master's after this program is finished. And I want to do a master's in spirituality and perhaps spirituality in the workplace. I was just wondering, at which point do we choose that track? Do we have to choose that track this year and the second half of this program? Who do we talk to? And then what sort of track do I need to choose to do something in spirituality? Thank you.
Yeah, Dion, thanks for the questions. Now, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to respond. I'm going to attempt to do so, but Estelle and other colleagues, please come in where I go off the path, which is normally the case. So you know, it all boils down to I think, Pierre, your question to planning. You know, I would want to think, if you plan to register for a master, let's say in 2022, then, you know, depending on your work ethics and how you plan it, but then obviously you need to get your PGDip done in 2021, which means hand in your research assignment by 1st of November and to get it completed and done with during the December graduation. That being said, and shaky ground, it does not mean in your research assignment the next year, 2022, in this example, on the 15th of January for March, April graduation, that there is no reason why you shouldn't register after that for a master's. But again, then you are at least 3 or 4 months into you know, the year. What the repercussions of that is, I am not sure. So anyone can come in. Estelle, please, if I've got something wrong, but this is my take. Let me just quickly answer Dion's question. Dion, it's a important one in terms of spirituality. I mean, that's a broad field which fits in perfectly with New Testament. No, only a joke. I mean, there's a lot of potential, obviously, because it's such a broad field. You can, in my opinion, specialize in any of the module with and focus on spirituality. Your question, when do you make these type of decisions? You know, that's an open-ended question. But you might be a person that has a very clear vision of where you're going, what you aim to do and accomplish, and you know already what you want to achieve, and your part B of your of the program, you know exactly what you want to at least impart, what you want to focus on or specialize on in your masters. And the part B is, you know, already a way of working towards that. It could be, or it might be that your part B is actually a process through which you change your mind and you want to go in a very different route. So I don't want to, you know, one should not dictate these things, because life happens. You develop as you go through your studies. Maybe it's an exam in missiology or exam in Old Testament theology that, you know, you see something, you observe something during your preparations, and that is the ultimate trigger and ignites a new attention or interest in a specific direction. So I don't want, I mean, depending on what type of personality you are, in my case, I leave it to the very end and beyond, and then I make a decision which is normally too late. But that's me. So it's dependent. But Dion, you want to come in? You're more than welcome. Please do.
Peter, thanks. Yeah, colleagues, just two things which I think are important. The one is, Dion, the question you asked about registration dates. There are only 2 registration dates for a master's degree in the year. The one is in January, the other is in July. If you're intending to finish your postgraduate diploma in this year, then you can already register. If you think that you're going to complete, you go onto the application system, online application system, you apply towards the end of the year. And then if you pass your diploma and you graduate, you will be admitted. If you don't, then you just re-register for your diploma. But just to say again, just on this registration issue, it really is a lot of work to finish this diploma in 1 year. And please also just take note of the point that Professor Bowes de Toy mentioned. We had some students last year who wrote to lecturers on the 3rd of December to say, I want to begin my Part B, and that's just impossible. You can't deliver a quality product. So please just make sure you do your planning very carefully. Pierre, in relation to your question, I think the important thing is as you're doing Part A of the diploma, you'll get a sense for the different disciplines that you're working in. And what's important is, as Peter says, you can research spirituality and workplace spirituality in any discipline. Practical theology, missiology, New Testament, ethics, systematic theology. The question is, methodologically, where do you want to do that? Do you want to work primarily in the biblical text? Are you wanting primarily to provide tools, understandings of how people should do it? Are you wanting to think about the nature of work, the doctrine of work? So in your Part A, you'll be introduced not only to theological concepts, but also to theological methods. And I think that's the way in which you should make up your decision about who you approach, which department you approach. Because just remember, the field in which you do your Part B is the one in which you go on to do your master's. It's quite difficult to change. If you've done Part B in practical theology and then want to do something in New Testament, that can be quite challenging.
Dion, thank you so much for that clarification and, rectifying me in terms of who's Dion. The question related to Dion and PS. Sorry about that, Pierre and Dion. But Dion, thank you for clarifying that and extremely important input. Colleagues, there's another round of questions, so please raise your hand. This is the time. I'm going through the list. I don't see any hand that is raised. Please do so. This is the opportunity. We still have a few minutes left. Avril, I see your hand. Thank you. Let's just wait if there's another hand. Estelle, I see your hand. Thank you so much. Let's just see if there's a third. Okay. Well, then this is it. Avril, the floor is yours, followed by Estelle. Thank you. Avril, you can go ahead. The floor is yours. Just make sure you unmute it. Okay, Estelle, Avril, can you hear me? Okay, Estelle, you can go ahead.
Hi, Dion. It's not really a question. Dion. I'm also confused with the names now. Peter. I've just seen in the chat box that some of the students are asking regarding the WhatsApp group. Maybe you can respond. You know more about these things, but that there is a WhatsApp group and what we will need from them to put them on there.
Estelle, thank you so much for, I see that. So let me just be clear on the WhatsApp group. I mean, there is already a PGDip WhatsApp group. Let me just be clear on that. So please do not create another one that might be, just another administrative group or a group that should be administrated. There is a WhatsApp group that like I've mentioned. If you want access to that, we can gladly assist you. But let me say the following, that, and I'm going to quickly scroll to that. We've set up a platform that is dedicated to PGDip students, and this is virtualhub.Cape Town, and there's a WhatsApp number that is integrated into this communication platform. So I want to encourage you to please use this communication platform. You can go to that platform. If you're not registered there. It's got a phone app, iPhone, Android, desktop app that will give you access to this communication platform. If on the platform, then you can use that WhatsApp number, and that will pull it into this communication platform, and we will deal with it there. Avril, yes, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Hi, Peter. I think Avril's struggling to unmute himself. He has a question about bursaries.
Okay, Avril, there might be some available. I don't know of any at this particular point in time, but I will make a note of it to communicate the possibilities via the normal channels, so that you are aware of the possible bursaries. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, David. Okay, colleagues, I'm going to maybe a last round of questions. So please, this is it. Raise your hand, ask your question, make a comment. Anybody, this is the last round of questions. Vernie, I see your hand. Anybody else? Vernie, I see your hand, David. Thank you so much. Vernie, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Naho. I want to know, if you write a model and when you fail it, now you write during maybe a second block or a second time, then if you pass the model, then they reduce your mark to 50%. Am I entitled to know actually the original mark that I receive for that model when I write a second time? That is my question.
Bernie, thank you so much. We'll get to that answer. Thanks. It's noted. David?
Hi, Peter. Perhaps you should deal with the question as actually a remark that I wanted to make. Maybe it can wait a little bit.
Perfect. Let me do so. Vernie, and Estelle, I don't know of any immediate reason or policy in that regard. I'm not aware of it, that if you want to know your original mark, mark will only be a 50% will award it. Estelle, if you can elaborate on that, I'm not sure about that.
No, I don't think there's a problem. What I've in any case done last year, if somebody had a re-exam and they received, let's say for the re-exam, maybe now 70% instead of a 30% fail the previous time, I think it's always encouraging to tell the student, listen, you know the policy, you will get a maximum of 50% for your module, but just to let you know, you improved in such a matter that you've actually received now 70%. And I think it's good for students to know that as motivation.
Absolutely, Estelle. Thank you so much. Vernie, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Doctor. I understand. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. David, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Now, I just wanted to stress 2 points with regards to preparations for the exams, and particularly for those students who come from a background other than theology. And that is that the reading and the preparation for engagement sessions for exams and even oral exams, that students should see that as an opportunity to really build their foundations in theology, particularly if you come from a different background, a different academic background. And also, if you want to pursue further studies, go on with the master's and possibly even with doctoral studies. So this here is actually quite a great opportunity to build a foundation in terms of theology, and it's very broad. All the sub-disciplines are covered, and mostly it deals with foundational stuff, but more than that, also a lot more than that. That's the one comment I wanted to make. The second one is, Peter, that with regards to the last question on if you write a second time, you get a 50%, that students also need to keep in mind that there are specific entry requirements, admission requirements for master's degrees and so on. So if you just do 50% for all your modules, you might not get an easy path into a master's degree program. So that students also keep that in mind. It's not just it depends also on their own personal expectations and their ambitions for future studies. Yeah, I just wanted to make those 2 points, Peter. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Valuable, relevant. Thanks. Colleagues, any further questions from the students, please? If there's no questions, I would like to just open the floor to my colleagues. If there's anything you would like to add or contribute while we're still together in this platform, anything that I've missed that you think should be mentioned or emphasized, please give me an indication. Just raise your hand. Nadia, please go ahead. And then Nadine, thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Just 2 things. The one is that I will update it. I haven't updated it yet for this year, but in this section on systematic theology, there's an information document that contains, I think, pretty much everything that students would like to know and that would be useful also towards preparing for the exams, and that's for both the A part and the B part. So for those who would be interested in specializing in systematic theology, so everything is summarized on there. I always suggest that as the sort of first stopping point to check out that document, read through it, dates, sources, the sort of process that is followed. Everything is described in there. That was the one thing I just wanted to mention. And then the second was to just echo what Professor Bowers de Tooy has mentioned about planning for the year, because I think that is such a crucial part of successfully completing this program, and especially the B part of the program, where often we find there is this bottleneck and this pressure, a lot of pressure and anxiety towards the end of the year to complete, especially for students who would like to complete the program within 1 year. And so I would just suggest that, especially for those students that have this plan and this sort of goal of completing the program within 1 year, that they really make contact with their lecturers before December. I had the same, there were the same kinds of inquiries that came my way, and when it comes your way in December, it's too late. I believe Professor Foster has also mentioned this. So that's too late. I think by September already there should be an indication from students that have this specific sort of pressure to finish up the program, that would be a good time at the very latest to communicate your intent to complete the B part of the program with a specific lecturer in a specific discipline. But by December, I can't see if, I mean, we have to remember, if we sort of put this in perspective, that the B part is a full half of this program. It's a load of 60 credits. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be completed within 1 month when it's taken 10 months to complete the A part, which weighs equally heavily. So I think just that perspective already here at the beginning of the year is extremely important for those who want to complete this successfully, and yeah, hopefully also experience something of a joy in completing this. So I would just mention that, to keep that in the back of one's mind. It would be very important. Also as a way of avoiding frustration and anxiety and unnecessary stress. This would be quite important. So we are learning lessons as we go along, and I think that's one of the important lessons that I have learned in the past few years. So thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Thanks for the contribution. Estelle, I see your hand. Nadine, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jana. Thanks, Nadia. I really appreciate that. I think that's one of the biggest sort of challenges, I think, in the past couple of years with the PGDip. I also want to add that, you know, yes, and I think as Peter has rightly said, our ideas change throughout the year about where you want to specialize as you become intrigued with different subjects. But once you have decided, please do contact your proposed supervisor and also test what your topic may be, because what I had at the end of the year last year was people who thought that it would be community development, but when I looked at the topic, I said, no, actually it better fits, for example, with youth ministry. And that was quite late in the day. So everybody, yeah, I just encourage you, engage with your chosen supervisor. They are there to help you. We are there to guide you. But yes, don't put undue pressure on yourselves or on us, because we really want to provide quality supervision to you. With regards to the B part as well, the 6 books, I also understand that it's COVID, and I do not expect other colleagues to do the same. But some of the books that I have put on the list, there may only be 2 copies, or it may be out of print. So when we get to June, July, and people are wanting to specialize, please note you can contact me and negotiate with regards to ebook replacements. If, for example, my list, there's a problem. Other colleagues have maybe already made provision and have some ebooks available in their list, but in my case, I'm not sure if that's the case for the majority of them. So I am open to that.
Nadine, thank you so much. Estelle, please.
Peter, I just wanted to add to what David has actually said about getting maybe a maximum of 50% for a re-exam, and, you know, thinking of going on to a MTH. It is in the booklet and it is in our calendar as well. That, and students must just keep in mind, if you want to proceed to the MTH, you have to have get an average of 65% for your diploma, for your program. That's now including all the written exams as well as your assignment. Currently, there is not a mark, a minimum mark for the assignment required, but I know this is up for discussion at the program committee, and it will most probably change so that the assignment also have a minimum mark requirement to proceed to MTH.
Estelle, thank you for that. Valuable, important. Nadia, I see your hand is raised. Is it to make a different contribution? Oh, it's lowered. David, please, Nadia. Okay, so I'm going to give David an opportunity. Nadia, if there's something else, you can just follow on David, please.
Yeah, Peter, I think I saw a question from one of the students asking about credits for fourth year modules, and I'm not sure that it was answered. It was in the chat function. So I think it's just, you know, I think I'm correct. Estelle might help me if I'm wrong, but all these modules must be done. There are no credits transferred from a fourth year module to this PGDip course. Is that correct, Estelle?
Yes, David, that is how I have it as well. Yes, all these modules have to be completed as part of this program.
Thank you, David, Estelle. Colleagues, if there's no other question or contribution, this is the end of the orientation. Let me just say the following. This is an extremely important program for reasons already mentioned. Let me also say that this is not a perfect program. We will definitely make mistakes. There are shortcomings, there's no doubt about it. But equally important is that we are journeying together. This is a community. We are PGDip community, like we are master thesis community and PhD student community and undergraduate student community. We are a community, and let's work together to rectify, to improve the program, to develop the program further. This is what it's not perfect, and it should not be perfect. We are working towards something, and we are doing it together. The final thing I want to say, or the second final thing, is please take note of these dates. And you've heard from my colleagues how important planning is. And I fully agree that to do it in 1 year will take a lot of work and a lot of input, but it is possible. Depending on your personality type, depending on your planning, how you structure things. But your first exam is your Old Testament exam. That's on the 13th of April. And the very last opportunity is missiology. That's on the Tuesday, the 5th of October. So let's assume for a minute that you are specializing in missiology. If you write on the Tuesday, the 5th of October, your missiology exam should still be marked, etc. That leaves you with little time. Let's assume that it's marked by the 20th or the more to the end of October. Then it leaves you with November and a short period in December, and then some weeks, 1.5 weeks or so in January. It's not impossible or undoable, but please bear in mind planning and keep the communication channels between yourself, especially with Part B, and your supervisor open. And where we can facilitate and mediate in circumstances, we're more than willing to do so. But we are doing it together. That, I think, is crucial. This is a collaborating effort, and we will do anything in our power, in our ability to accommodate where we possibly can. But you know, it's all of us should come to the party and do what needs to be done. I want to thank you, my colleagues. Without you, this program does not exist. It's not possible. Thank you for your input, contributions, Estelle, for organizing this, sending out whatever else, and doing more than you usually should. Thank you for that, and thanks to the students for participating, sticking with us, throughout the 2 hours, raising your questions, engaging us. That's what we're here for. And remember, the platforms are there. Use them. It's set up for the sole purpose to communicate effectively and quickly as possible. So colleagues, have a good afternoon. I hope to see you sooner than later. Have a wonderful afternoon. Students, stay safe. We'll be in contact soon. All the best.